Hey guys, welcome back to my apartment. What I want to do this week for these videos is kind of walk through the Sermon on the Mount, one of the most famous sermons ever preached, and for great reason. If I were to just simplistically give an overview of the Sermon on the Mount, I would break it up into three sections. The first section is when Jesus describes who Christians are, the DNA of a Christian. The center, the bulk of the message is when Jesus talks about anger and lust and loving your enemies and things like that. That's what a Christian looks like in the world. And then he ends his Sermon on the Mount in chapter 7, giving different illustrations of why it's imperative that someone listens to his teachings. That's where you get the wise versus the foolish builder and things like that. But for the first devotional, I want to spend time in that first section when Jesus describes the DNA of a Christian. And so in the first 16 verses of chapter 5, Jesus describes who his followers really are, the DNA of who they are. That's where you get what's commonly called the Beatitudes. And he rounds out the Beatitudes in verses 17 and 20, where he talks about salt and light. That we, right, the people that are living out the Beatitudes, us Christians, we are the salt of the earth, or we are the light of the world. And what he means by those, as he rounds out this teaching on the Beatitudes, is that we have a purpose, just like salt and light have a purpose, that we have a mission, just like salt and light have a mission. Light can't help but give light, and salt can't help but be salt. What Jesus is getting at is that he's not just giving us mandates of how to live, but he is changing who we are. He has remade us. And so the emphasis is not on us doing good things, though he does say in verse 16 that we will be doing good things, because that's, if you're a Christian, you live out a life like Christ. But the emphasis is on what Jesus has done. That's why at the end of verse 16 it says, "Let people see your good works so that they can glorify the Father, so that they can see Christ in you." That's the emphasis of this section, is that Jesus changes our DNA. We don't work up enough energy to somehow change ourselves, but Jesus changes us. And we would do so well to just remember that that's who we are, that Jesus has changed us, and that defines us before anything else. And as an illustration, I just think of The Lion King, when Simba forgets who he is, right? And this is one of the most amazing moments in all of Disney history, when Simba's in that field and the sky opens up and Mufasa's face is there, and he just says, "Remember who you are." Simba wasn't living like the prince that he was. And so often, especially in this crazy world right now, we can forget that we are sons and daughters of a king, that is who we are. And so, Christian, that's who you are. I just want to call you to remember that we are being invited and called to live into the identity that Christ gives us, that he has changed and remade us, that we are in his grace. So I just want for us to be thinking of that and focus our minds on that. And here's just an application and the main idea of this talk, that Jesus is the light that gives us life. Jesus is the light that gives us life. The life God calls us to live is only found in him and through him. Jesus is the main idea. So here's a question I want to ask you, and I hope that you'll take this question and talk with someone about it. What is it that distracts you from finding full life in Christ? What is it that distracts you from really living into who Christ has made you to be? What is it that distracts you from believing who he has made you? What is it that distracts you from fully engaging in his grace? That is who you are. That is where you live, in his grace. What is it that distracts you from really believing that? So I hope that you'll have just a good time reading through that passage, verses 1 through 20 of chapter 5 of the book of Matthew, and ask that question, talk about it, consider it with someone near you. I hope this was a blessing to you.